You ever get stuck in a rut with your drum fills? Like no matter what you do, you can't come up with anything that you like. Well, I do, and I found that it helps to have some processes put in place so that if I'm having one of those days where I'm just kind of off, but I'm on the spot, in other words, I'm on a gig or maybe I'm in a rehearsal, and I need to come up with something, then I have kind of a process that I can go through that at least generates something, and oftentimes generates something that I really like. And before we get started, I've got a question for you, and that is, what is your favorite drum fill? It can be from a recording, it can be something you made up, it can just be a sticking. Put it in the comments section below. Let's start a conversation about it. Here we go, constructing drum fills in 3 steps. Now, before we start with this, is this the only way that I or you can come up with drum fills? Absolutely not. There's a million different ways, but this is one way, and this is one way that I've used. So that's my job as a teacher. My job as a teacher is to expose you to some different ways of doing things, and then you put those with other things and you come up with your own thing. So that's my goals, but by the end of this lesson, you'll have a method for being able to come up with some drum fills, and maybe you put that with some other ideas you have, and maybe you put that and extend the method. Whatever you may do with it, I just want to teach you 3 steps that will get you started, or if you're in a tight situation, will actually get you to a drum fill that you can use in a musical situation. All right, so let's look at this. Step 1, I'm going to be looking at my pattern and the rate of speed or the subdivision that I'm going to be playing that pattern in. So for this demonstration, I picked about the easiest pattern I could. It's simply right, left, repeated. And then for my subdivision or my rate of speed, we're going to use 16th notes. Now, if you don't know what a 16th note in 4/4 time means there's going to be 16 notes in a measure spread evenly over that bar. So 4 16th notes per 1/4 note. And we're going to count those 1 eana, 2 eana, 3 eana, 4 eana. That's going to be my subdivision. That's all of step 1. Now in the second step, we're going to be looking at articulation and then any embellishments we can do. I have 7 big principles that I like to look at no matter what the pattern or groove is that I'm playing. I like to look at, and those are dynamics and articulation and voicing or phrasing. So we're going to look at that, but in this particular step, we're simply going to use articulation and any embellishments we can do with that pattern. So since I have a bar of 16th notes, I'm going to grab my sticks here. I'm reaching for them, can't find them. We're going to take and we're going to play that. In the first beat, I'm going to add 2 accents. I'm going to put some articulation in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an accent on the downbeat and then the of that one. So 1 E and . That takes care of beat 1. Now we have beats 2, 3, and 4 to deal with. Now that leaves us 12 16th notes left. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide these up, and I'm going to have a 6-note chunk, and I'm going to take that and repeat it so that makes 12 notes. Now the 6 notes I'm going to play are going to be just like we said in step 1, alternating right, left, right, left. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to accent the first and second right. So right, left, right, left. Then the 5th note is going to be unaccented in the right hand, and the 6th note in the left hand will be accented. Let me demonstrate that for you. Now that you've got that 6-note pattern down, we're going to repeat it. So it starts on beat 2, and it's going to be 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Let's put all those little chunks together and see what they sound like in a full measure. That's the articulation I'm going to use. Now remember, I said in step 2, we're also going to be looking at what I call embellishments, any embellishments we can put on these notes. Now those would be diddles or doubles, we could put buzzes, we could put flams, drags, whatever that may be. That's where I'm going to kind of look at how I'm going to phrase this particular set of notes. Now what I want to do just for fun is I want every unaccented note to be a diddle. So I'm going to double that and make it a roll. That's all of step 2. Now let's review here real quick. In our first step, we're going to be looking at the sticking that we're going to be using, which is an alternating single stroke sticking. We're going to be looking at the subdivision or the rate of speed that we're playing the notes, which is 16th notes. Then we move on to step 2. We're looking at our articulation, the accents we're putting within the pattern, which we've already gone over. Then we're going to go on within that step and we're going to look at any embellishments we can do, which, as I said earlier, I'm going to put diddles or I'm going to roll every unaccented note. Now step 3 is where I start thinking about melody, or I start thinking about the phrasing around the drum set, however you want to refer to that. So let's look at the phrasing that we can do around the drum set. For this particular example, I'm going to do this phrasing. For the first set of 4 notes, the first accent is going to be on the floor tom. The second accent, which is on the left hand on the of one, is going to be on the high tom. Easy enough, right? Now we get to those 6-note patterns. Now the first 6-note pattern starts on beat 2. And I'm going to start that accent here on the snare drum. So I'm going to play a right accented, then an unaccented left, diddle, just as we talked about. Then my next right is going to be on the hi-hat, but I'm going to put a kick drum with it. And the next accent we have is that left. I'm going to put that on the high tom. So real slow, let me do that 6-note pattern for you. The last 6 notes, I'm going to play that same accent pattern as before, but what I'm going to do is orchestrate it just a little bit differently. So I'm going to put the first accent on the snare drum. That second right hand is again going to go on the hi-hat, and then the third accent in that left hand on that 6th beat of that second 6-note pattern is going to come on the snare drum. Then we crash and we're back into the groove. And that's really all there is to these 3 steps. Now let's review them real quick. The first step is we pick our sticking, which in this case was alternating sticking starting with the right hand. The second thing we're going to do in that step is we're going to pick our subdivision or our rate of speed. Then we move on to step 2, and in step 2 we're thinking about articulation. So we're thinking about where are the high points and the low points in this fill. Once we have an articulation pattern, then I'm going to be looking at any embellishments I want to do within that fill. So I'm going to be looking at buzzes and diddles and flams and drags and all those things that we can use to embellish a pattern. Then I'm going to move on to step 3, which is where I think about the orchestration around the drum kit or the melody within the fill. And once I have that, I have a drum fill. And the cool thing is we can go back to step 2 and wash, rinse, and repeat this process as much as we want. Now, some of you are saying, Stephen, I hate that drum fill you just played. Like, I really don't like it. Then go make up your own. Use the process that I've outlined, go through the 3 steps, and come up with your own. Trust me, I as a teacher would rather have you as a player come up with your own thing. Be completely original. But see, we can use some strategies and work through those different steps and come up with something completely different, something that's completely your own. And that, as a teacher, is what I want you to do. Hopefully those 3 steps will help you come up with some creative drum fills, even on those days when you're not feeling quite so creative. Be sure and sign up for the email list. You can follow the link below. But whatever you do, I'll see you here in the next video.